There's no reason to be afraid.
Birds are not aggressive creatures, miss. They bring beauty into the world.
That might be true for one bird, but thousands of birds? That's a different story.
I hardly think a few birds are going to bring about the end of the world.
I think you're the cause of all this. I think you're evil!
One of the most terrifying films of all time. The Birds.
Good evening, my darlings. No, it is not Friday, and this is not the Creature Teacher. But yes, I'm Misty Brew, and I'll be your hostess all this week on the KBSI 8 o'clock movie. This may not be Creature Teacher, but boy, do we have some terrifying critters all this week on the 8 o'clock movie. And speaking of terror, tonight's feature is from the master of terror, a terrifying masterpiece. It's Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. These kind of birds you have for dinner, no, they're not. They mean business. Stick around. I'll be back soon with lots of fun stuff.
How do you do? My name is Alfred Hitchcock, and I would like to tell you about my forthcoming lecture. It is about the birds and their age-long relationship with man. It will be seen in theaters like this across the country. In my lecture, I hope to make you all aware of our good friends, the birds. Theirs is a noble history, and through it all, man has played a conspicuous part. This cave drawing is one of man's earliest sketches of his feathered friend. One can see at once the loving care with which the artist depicted his subject. The story of man and his friends, the birds, is filled with many fine examples of ways in which these noble creatures have added to the beauty of the world. Take this plumed hat from the period of Charles I. How proud the birds must have been to have their feathers plucked out to brighten man's drab life. Here we have a later model, a refinement of the first. Here man, or rather woman, thought enough of the birds to have an entire one as a decoration. It's quite dead, of course. Naturally, the egg plays a very prominent part in my lecture. Not a word about which came first, however. I don't believe in dealing with controversial matters. Thousands of years ago, man was satisfied merely to steal an egg from a nest and use it for food. Now he has perfected this process by imprisoning each hen in a separate cage and by scientifically manipulating the lights so that she doesn't fall into the rut of the old 24-hour day. Thus, he can induce the bird to reach fantastic heights of egg production. Originally, there were many varieties of birds on Earth. Some have become extinct. The great auk, the passenger pigeon, and the famous dodo bird have all disappeared. Actually, they didn't exactly disappear. They were simply killed off, but of course, this is nature's way. Man merely hurries the process along whenever he can be of help. Man and birds have been responsible for a great many advances in our civilization. For example, the bird was the inspiration for the invention of gunpowder, and it was his speed that brought about the development of the shotgun. But man has not been unmindful of his debt to the bird. We have honored our feathered friends in many ways. We cage birds and show them off proudly in most of our zoos. And the turkey is traditionally our guest of honor at Thanksgiving. I suspect you never realized that if it weren't for birds, even some of our pastimes would suffer noticeably. Duck hunting, for example. Granted, bagging a fellow hunter can be diverting, but the supply is rather limited. I hope you don't mind if I have something to eat, but I'm rushed today. Planning the lecture has been most educational for me. I've come to feel very close to the birds, and I've come to realize how they feel when... I don't think I'll eat just now. Hardly proper with all of you here.
I am no bird brain. I'm just being prepared, that's all. I just washed my hair. It's just like washing your car. Don't you get tired of what these guys do to your freshly washed cars? I think birds have an eye for shine. And they say, oh, there's one, and well, you know what happens next. These people should get a clue and get an umbrella too.
Mr. Hitchcock, do you like birds?
I'm quite indifferent to them. They serve their purpose on occasion.
Mm-hmm. Which purpose would that have been for you?
Well, it was a matter of making a little movie about them. Mm-hmm. A modest little affair, if I may say so.
Are you really modest about this picture, or do you like it particularly?
Well, it's different, you know, and one always tries to meet a challenge. I think just doing an ordinary picture of what I call photographs of people talking is rather dull. Mm-hmm. So the challenge was to take this subject and see if it could be made to work.
I think there was a rather particular challenge about this picture, which was working with birds, really. Was it very difficult?
That was the technical challenge. Of course, it's a very involved technical process. And the mere fact that I am able to shoot a picture, to photograph a picture, with the cutting in mind, we were able to train the birds for each individual cut. In other words, we couldn't take necessarily whole long scenes and expect the birds to behave for about 4 or 5 minutes. But the manner of the montage permitted the bird to be trained for a very short period, such as flying after a child and landing on its shoulder. Then I would be able to go to a close-up of it biting and so forth.
The birds, I mean, looked rather terrible, were they, actually?
The seagulls, miyot you call them, the seagulls are vicious. They are scavenger birds. And the trainers, when handling them, had to wear very heavy gloves because instinctively they bite because they're always catching fish and so forth. The crows, the what do you call
corbeau?
The corbeau, they were to be trained. They varied. Some were vicious, some were very friendly.
Now, that was the technical challenge, but
That's
there are
right.
other challenges. Which ones?
Well, the challenge of the whole analogy of the film, that the theme is that man must be responsible to nature. He cannot assume that nature is always beneficial. The beautiful scenery, the sea, the sky, the trees, everything he enjoys. In the opening of the film, we show how he treats birds, animals. He thinks that they should be in nice cages and very happy and so forth. Now, the film shows that man takes nature for granted. But if it turns on him, then he's in trouble. For example, he digs uranium from the ground. And now look at the trouble he's in for that.
What is that the whole theme of the picture, or are there other themes?
There's a general theme that in this respect of man's, shall we say, taking nature for granted, makes him complacent. He thinks he's the master of everything. But a man in a thunderstorm, if he is afraid at all, or you see a woman in a thunderstorm, she immediately goes under the table in fear. Nature is there in its most fiercest. I don't think they've ever been able to make an atom bomb with anything like the power of a thunderstorm.
Miss Helen, The Birds is your first picture, and it's a picture with Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
Now, I'd like you very much to tell us your very first contacts with Hitchcock. How were they?
Well, you know, Mr. Hitchcock put me through a suspense thriller for about 3 days. I received a phone call saying that a producer had seen me on a television commercial, and the gentleman asked if I would bring over pictures and any film that I had. So I did. And while we were talking, I said, well, won't you tell me who this producer is? And he just got a grin on his face and wouldn't say, you know. And this was on Friday the 13th. So this is all of a sudden my lucky day, you know. And then Monday morning, I had to meet somebody else. And Monday afternoon, I met someone else. And they still wouldn't tell me who the producer was. So on Tuesday morning, I met Mr. Hitchcock's agent. And he told me that Mr. Hitchcock wanted to sign me to a contract.
What was the feeling you got at that moment?
Well, you know, I was so stunned, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry or, you know, run up and down the halls.
And is the first contact good? Is he putting you at ease?
Oh, very much so. Yes, we had lunch in his office, and we discussed a variety of subjects.
Then you came into contact with that subject. Didn't it seem very horrible to you? Just reading
No,
it?
well, at this point, I didn't know that it was good, about the birds. You see, this was simply a test to find out what potential I might have, to see if I could act. You know, up until then, I had only done television commercials.
What are the birds to you, exactly?
What are the birds? You mean the meaning of the picture?
No, the picture itself. What does it mean to you? Was it a terrifying experience?
Oh,
was it...
for about 2 weeks, I was terrified. Other than that, I went through the picture without being frightened or scared or you know, anything. Where I'm in the attic and the birds attack me. Well, it took 7 days to shoot this scene, and it's on the screen approximately 2 minutes. And they built a cage for me. So they put me in a cage this time. And in the cage with me was the cameraman and 5 prop men with cartons of crows and ravens and seagulls, which they alternately flew at me for these 7 days.
Live birds?
Yes, live birds. And I was scratched many times and bitten. I had a good one right on the cheek right there. And under my eye, very close to my eye. So at the end of this scene, I just collapsed and was sent to bed under doctor's orders for 5 days.
Do you like birds still after making
Oh,
that
I
picture?
do. Yes, I do. I have no real fear of them. They never deliberately attacked me. The seagulls are dangerous. They're extremely dangerous.
You've been living with the birds and birds for such a long time now. How do you react to the picture afterwards? When you
I'm
see
absolutely thrilled with it.
Miss Hedren, do you still like birds?
You know, I do. In fact, there was a time during the picture that I, was scared to death of them. But I became very good friends with one of the ravens.
Yes. Making a film, your first film for Alfred Hitchcock, was this a very awe-inspiring experience?
Of course it was. Absolutely. It was the first film I've ever done, for one thing, which is a little discerning at times. I worked very hard, of course. And then the problems with the birds, the great technical problems with it was of tremendous importance.
Is Mr. Hitchcock a difficult man to work with?
Not at all. I've never heard him raise his voice or temperament. He has no great show of temperament whatsoever. He's wonderful to work with.
Look who just flew in from Hollywood. Frankie! And boy, are his arms tired. Say hello, Frankie. Hey, did you get a haircut? Wait a minute. Is that a bird on your shoulder? Is it? Oh, Frankie, don't you know what tonight's movie is called? What? You just did a new movie with that bird? Frankenstein meets Captain Hook? But Captain Hook had the bird. Oh, don't give away the end, huh? We'll talk some more about your movie, but let's get back to Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Surely the birds appreciate all we've done for them. Don't you? Beautiful cage, fresh water, no other birds to bother you, none of that blinding sunlight. Oh, now why would he do that? Most peculiar. What on earth?
They're coming! They're coming!
I see. Good luck, Miss Daniels.
Thank you.
Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? I think you're the cause of all this. I think you're evil.
It's the end of the world.
Hey, Frankie, isn't that bird on your shoulder becoming a burden? You know, Frankie, the people in this movie are becoming awful gullible. I feel a good roll coming on. No, we're not going to roll on the floor. We better get back to the movie, or the bird jokes will be flying high. There's another. Welcome back, human creatures. You know, it has been a while since we looked into Misty's big book. Come on, human creatures, drop me a line. And remember, if you need someone to spice up your talent show or contest, just call me here at KBSI. And here is tonight's letter. It begins, "Hello, Misty. My name is Arthur, and I like your program. I see your program every Friday night, and I see you. Do you live in Cape Girardeau? I would like to know if you are married. Would you please tell me when you are coming to Cape? Soon, your friend, Arthur." Well, no, Arthur, I am not from Cape. I fly in from the homeland, Transylvania, just to do Creature Feature every Friday night. And I feel that 300 is a little too old to marry. But I am always looking. Everyone always tells me I don't look a day over 150.
Hi, human creatures. Pick up T-shirts, posters, pins, and more at my official Misty Brew store at cafepress.com/Misty Brew.
Hi, I'm John Bon Jovi, and I've been given a script to talk to you about drugs, rock and roll, having fun, a good time, and all that good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, drugs is not a part of my everyday routine. It's not everyday fun. It's not good for you. All right, so listen, think twice before you do drugs, because there ain't no winners out there doing it.
Hey, human creatures, come see me, Misty Brew, at Cape Comic-Con on April 19th to the 21st, 2015, at the Osage Center in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. See you there.
Next week, we have a classic horror film from Alfred Hitchcock.
Today.
That's Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Pal, yes, sir. Shake hands with the Pabst Blue Ribbon Handy 6. Just insert your fingers in that patented, easy-to-grip handle, then you're headed for pleasure with 6 taste-filled cans of that smoother Pabst Blue Ribbon. Finest beer served anywhere. So when your dealer says, "What'll you have?" well, just tell him you want 6 cans of Pabst Blue Ribbon in the Handy 6.
By now, you know Pabst is sponsoring the Creature Feature, and the old Blue Ribbon beer is the brew Misty Brew enjoys. So when someone says, "Will you have, say, Pabst Blue Ribbon, please?" Pabst Brewing Company has been brewing quality beer for over 130 years. Pabst Natural Brewing is done with the high quality always. So when you hear, "What'll you have?" say Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Look at this sparkling beer. Guess I'll drink alone, since I can't find anyone around here tonight.
Oh! Now, why would he do that? Most peculiar.
There's no reason to be afraid.
Birds are not aggressive creatures, miss. They bring beauty into the world.
That might be true for one bird, but thousands of birds? That's a different story.
I hardly think a few birds are going to bring about the end of the world.
I think you're the cause of all this. I think you're evil!
One of the most terrifying films of all time. The Birds.
Next week, we have a classic from the master of suspense. Let's look.
She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes.
That's Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, next week on the Creature feature. But don't forget, next week it's Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, uncut and unedited. So you little human creatures better talk to Mom and Dad before you watch. See you next week, my darlings.
Coming on this stage in person is the most amazing mystery man of all time, Houston, and the original Houston's Hallucinations, starring the girls with Hex Appeal, Joyce Harris, Kathy Bard, Sherry Winters, Cindy Curtis. Girls, girls, and more girls, dressed in the most daring designs Paris has to offer. And if you want mystery, witness the unbelievable Flight to Outer Space. See a girl without a middle, and the weird and unusual Burning of a She-Devil. See all this and more in Houston's Hallucinations, coming on this stage soon. Extra, extra, the first time on any American stage, see the talked-about girl in the topless swimsuit. It's sexational.
Yum, yum. It's a meal in itself. Our all-meat super dog. Enjoy one now.
As soon as we can, let's flick our Bics.
I don't know about you, but I'm hungry.
Now that you mention it, some burgers and fries would go great with a flick.
And we should also not forget some popcorn, soft drinks, and ice cream.
Then, can we flick our Bics?
Sure. I'd bet you could also get me some chicken salad sandwiches with mayo and a pickle.
How about some pizza?
Oh, with cheese and anchovies.
Ooh, pepperoni.
Monsters do have their place. In the zoo, in your nightmares, in the deep, in your favorite horror movies. But not in your living room, on your TV. Don't let pay TV be the monster in your living room. Pay TV and cable TV companies are seeking the right to charge you for the very programs you now get free. If you want to stop pay TV and save free television, sign the petition in the lobby of this theater. Let your lawmakers know how you feel in the fight against pay TV and cable TV.